Hello and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thanks for joining us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Autism, also known as Autism Spectrum Disorder or ASD, is a group of conditions related to brain development. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 100 children has the condition. That's of some years ago. More often than not, autism is not discovered until later in childhood. It sometimes comes with severe disabilities, but some people living with the condition can function independently. WHO says evidence-based psychosocial interventions can improve communication and social skills with a positive impact on the well-being and quality of life of both autistic people and their caregivers. My guest is a certified integrative health coach, special needs expert, gut health consultant, and head of the Onyinye Obiageli Integrative Health. She is Onyinye Obiageli. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I truly applaud your work and the efforts you put in addressing often overlooked very critical issues in society.
Expecting that. All right. So you've had a personal brush with autism. I want us to start with that. At what point did you suspect something was different with your twins?
At 15 months. Because what you have to understand is most children are not born with autism. Autism is artificial. It's something that it's developed.
Okay.
As the child grows, as the child, progresses in life.
So, how much of a toll did this take on you as a mom? I want to get that out of the way. How stressful was it for you?
Oh, it was definitely not a walk in the park.
And what was it that you noticed that was a bit off?
Okay. If you would permit me to just go back a little bit to give like a background story so we can better understand. So the twins were born prematurely, and as with every twin pregnancies, most twin pregnancies, there were complications, but the complications were taken care of at birth. So when they were turning 1, they were already okay. However, we now know that optimum health doesn't really mean the absence of disease, but it really does mean the state of complete physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. So even though my son was physically well, emotionally and mentally he was unwell. And that we would discover much later. So just buttress your question. So after they were born, they were fine. And they went on to carry on. I remember at their first birthday, they were really fine. They had developed language, eye contact. They were talking.
They were talking.
Absolutely. But at 15 months old, when they had incessant case of inflamed tonsils, and we introduced antibiotics, that was when everything went, downhill from there. Now there is the point to address what really happens with antibiotics. You see, the gut lining, or otherwise called the digestive tract, is a very, very long tract. It's about 9 meters long. It houses about 90% of the overall cells in the body.
Okay, let's hold that thought first of all.
Okay.
We'll get back to it.
Okay.
When they were examined,
yes,
what gave the doctor that definitive, diagnosis? Why did he diagnose in that manner? Okay. What was it he saw?
No eye contact. Language was starting to repress. So even though they had started talking, they weren't now developing more words. As the natural progression of things go, when a child starts to blab, the natural progression would be to start to develop words, and then from words, language formation. So when you have a child that was already saying a few words, now regress to not building more words and then not saying anything at all, that was a telltale sign. Also, eye contact, was lost, and then the child became very aggressive, very withdrawn, quite easily irritable, and and the learning wasn't just happening anymore. So those are some of the signs. You can tell picky eating was developed along the way. Also a very bad case of diarrhea that would go on for years. It was myriad of issues, but those are...
In these days when children start school, 1.5 years old, 2 years old, what did you do at that time?
So the children started school, I believe it was at 6 months old. But the good thing for me was, school was family run. So I had some sort of privileges and support. But in other people, just generally speaking, it's a more difficult situation, because the attention that that would have been gotten from you having a one-on-one relationship with, as in my case, would not be there. And so something that would have been taken care of, or should have been identified early, might take longer to be identified. And you must understand that time is the most precious asset for these children. So if there is something that should be taken care of at X points and not taken care of because of logistics or just general delay, it causes a lot of problems in the future.
Okay, so you had to tackle this problem, and you were beginning to give us a connection with gut health, because these are the things you studied.
Absolutely.
So go on.
Go on. Okay. So thank you so much for that question. I truly believe that the more we understand what's going on, the better we're equipped to address this issue, autism. I do believe that autistic children can recover. Let's just start with that. Autistic children can recover if we're able to, stop the toxicity that's happening in the brain, and introduce interventions. I beg your pardon, that would help the child begin to learn. Then the child will well be on his or her way to recovery. So back to what I was saying. You see, the gut tract is a very long system. It's about 9 meters long, and it houses 90% of the overall cells in the body. There is a direct connection between the gut and the brain. Direct. There are no side works, and then all the chemicals made in the brain are produced in the gut.
Okay.
Also, the gut is very fragile. So when you understand all of these factors and you put them together, you then understand why they say that there's a gut-brain connection. And when there's an issue with the guts, it affects the brain. And this is the reason why you hear people say, when you heal the guts, you heal the brain. So what causes autism? Autism is, there are several school of thoughts. Some people say it's because it's a genetic thing. Others believe it's a connection relationship thing. And other school of thought believe it's an environmental factor. I do believe.
So maybe everything together?
I believe it's a combination of all three. However, in my opinion and from my experience, I would put environment at the top of the leaderboard. And the reason is because, you see, the environment that we live in, we're supposed to have a symbiotic relationship with the environment, wherein we give it and it gives back. We give to nature, nature gives back to us. But when you alter that cycle, of course there are consequences. And how is that cycle altered? When you introduce harmful things that harm the guts, then the body reacts. So how does that happen? There are several things that alter this connection between humans and the environment. When you introduce hard drugs, hard drugs like antibiotics, steroids.
Oh, is that what you call hard drugs?
Yes. So
not the ones we call hard drugs.
Yes, absolutely. So those things also constitute harmful drugs. So should I say harsh drugs, not hard.
I know what you mean.
Yes. Because what
definition of drug is helpful poisons.
Absolutely. Because what they do, if we take the case of antibiotics, which is actually my main primary subject today, is what it does to the gut. So you see, in the microbe, in the gut flora, there is an ecosystem of both bacteria, parasites, protozoa, fungi, all of those things. They come together and they live, together happily. But when you have antibiotics introduced, antibiotics, what it does really is to kill off all bacteria. Now, when it kills
including the good ones,
both the opportunistic and the beneficial, it kills them off. When you kill them off, there is a vacuum that has now been created.
That's a very strong case for antimicrobial resistance.
And nature abhors vacuum. So what happens after that? The other organisms that live in there, what they do then in the absence of bacteria is they overgrow and they become pathogens. They become, begin to cause issues.
Which, in your opinion, affect the brain.
Absolutely.
But I want to go on to, you spoke about a 5-step protocol
yes.
that helps people with autism.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
So, in my quest to find help for my children, I went, from personal reading to finding out, experiential, of course, what I was experiencing at home. In the quest of all of those, I realized that definitely it must start from the gut. It's really true, it's reality that if you heal the gut, you will well be on your way to healing the brain. So what I did was use diet at first, and then I introduced therapy. Again, you must understand that when people say early intervention, you must know what you're intervening, you must know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually be giving your children, you can actually introduce intervention early that is harmful to the child. And that is the reason why the core of my practice also is premised on not only early intervention, but quality information.
Okay.
Because if you come across something, information that is very, very useful at the time, at the right time, and you implement it, then you would, the child would begin on the healing journey. So at the core of the protocol is diet, because the microbial function in them must be changed. For a child who is autistic, definitely there is what they call gut dysbiosis, meaning there is imbalance between in all the organisms happening there, like in the case of the death or the eradication of bacteria that I had spoken about.
So you change
change that by inoculating the system with foods and fluids that will be beneficial to repopulating, to introduce bacteria first, and then...
So let me make a wild guess. Is one of these things yogurt?
Yes.
Because of the probiotics?
Yes, absolutely.
Aha, we're on the right track.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you change the diet.
Change diet, introduce therapy and other things.
What does therapy look like?
So there are different types of therapy. There is behavior modification therapy. There is occupational therapy. There is speech and language pathology.
No, but we're talking about children here. So what's occupational therapy?
Yes. So let me just backtrack a bit. When you see between the age of 0 to 3 years old, a child is able to learn using natural. Let me rephrase that, because I'm just trying to. So during 0 to 3 years old, a child can learn naturally without any assistance, with what they see. Yes, copying what they see, what they hear, what they smell, and what they touch. But that natural ability expires after about 3 years old. Anything that is not learned at that period must then be taught the child after that period. So when you have a child whose brain is intoxicated, of course, what that means is that it then alters the natural progression of learning. At that point, when you then begin to intervene, some of the things that these children deal with or they go through is the fact that they lose, or they have not been able to develop their motor function. So occupational therapy, comes in to help the children, to teach the children how to become functional, how to, do simple things like maybe button, their shirt, or tie, a lace or, just, develop muscle strength to be able to do simple tasks like have a bath, scrub yourself and all of those.
Wear your shoes.
Wear your shoes.
So when you implemented these things,
yes.
Your children have started having eye contact?
My children are, the oldest son, the oldest twin is fully recovered and he's back to mainstream school. And the youngest twin obviously is also, we haven't taken him to be evaluated, but I don't call him autistic anymore.
Okay.
I believe that...
we are going to have to take a break and continue after that.
Okay.
Please stay with us. I hope you're excited like I am. Meet us on the other side after the break. Welcome back. It's Health Matters on Channels Television, and we're talking about autism through the eyes of someone who has to deal with it. The number to call if you have questions on this topic is 0808-054-2233. And you can also send a message at X, on X at CTV_Mary A. Let me repeat that. You can send a message on X at CTV_Mary A. while we continue with the conversation. So you said the younger twin is not fully there yet. What are you having challenges with, or what remains to be done?
So when I say he's not fully there yet, what I mean is he's recovered. However, we still have some areas of improvement which we're working on. So with neurotypical children, with neurodivergent children, there is this high standards of perfectionism that is expected of them, which is not mirrored in neurotypical children. So we all have areas of improvement. And for me, recovery really means a child becoming functional and living independently, even though they still have one or two things, as do everybody that they're working on. That for me is recovery. So he is recovered. He's talking. He's aware of his environment. He does his chores by himself. He's in school. He's back to school. He sits down. He's learning. He's developing well, meeting up, with his milestones.
Can he do some of these things without supervision?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely. So that for me is recovery. If a child is able to communicate with you, I have this, is hurting me. What happened in school today, and he's able to converse with you. Of course, they do struggle with small talk and extended conversation, but those are things that are being worked on and can continue to improve as we go along, because the body does have the opportunity, the ability to heal itself if you give it the chance to.
In your practice, would you say this 5-point protocol works for all the special needs children?
Absolutely.
Including those who are not autistic,
Absolutely.
Other special needs?
Absolutely.
And you've been seeing results?
Absolutely. Because there is a direct connection between the gut and the brain. And if you heal the gut, you heal the brain. So most of the neurological disorder or, issues, developmental disorder that we have, it all stems from the gut, because all disease actually starts from the gut. So if you heal the gut, then you would definitely heal the brain. Regardless, it could be ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, dyslexia, you name them, lactose intolerance, anything, it starts from the gut. Once there is an imbalance in what I described before, it then opens up the door for other things. So it depends on what your chemical composition is, what you're already predisposed to as a human being. That would then determine what you begin to deal with, or what the person will begin to deal with. I beg your pardon, not you.
No, that's totally okay.
Excuse me.
The experts say that some people are, on the lower end of this spectrum of autism and are dependent on others for life. What would you advise families struggling with such people?
I would advise them to change the diet. You see, that is the very first point of call. Changing the diet to change the chemical composition to actually stop the intoxication that is happening in the brain, stop it in its tracks, and then intervention can, you can then begin to see the results of your intervention. Because if you keep intervening and keep getting guide, or carers or, support, but the child is still, or the adult or the individual is still exposed to the harmful things, then you're taking 2 steps forward, but you're taking 5 steps backward.
Okay, so this is where something you mentioned there, very key. In your practice, have you had adults go through this protocol and improve?
So I don't deal with adults because I have to have a niche to be able to, attend to give my full attention. So I only do children. However, I have used this protocol for members of my family who have 1 or 2 digestive issues or who have 1 or 2, physical things that they're dealing with. And it's really helped. It's solved the problem. Absolutely. So even though I don't take in adults in my practice, I have used, the protocol on adults.
Okay.
And it works.
Before the child is born, does the mother have to behave a certain way?
Absolutely.
She does?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because the very first dose of immunity that a child gets is from the mother, and it's at birth. So if the mother is already predisposed to digestive issues, then whatever she's passing on to the child is already compromised. However, what I advise my clients is, if you are a nursing mother, one of the ways to really ensure that you protect your child against the onslaught of what is happening in the environment, which is what is relating to autism, is to breastfeed for longer. Because you see, what breast milk does is it protects the child. It protects from, all these issues. So if you're able to breastfeed for between 3 years, even to 5 years, you can begin to give on maybe maintenance level after 3 years. But you see, that first 3 years is very important. Why? Because if you remember, I said between 0 to 3 years is when the child develops and learns naturally. So when the milk is there, the child is protected. And then the mother should then seek, information, knowledge on how to continue. After you wean the child from breast milk, then you must stay on whole foods. You must stay on organic stuff. You must stay on naturally, foods that are grown.
That occur naturally.
And stay away from anything processed.
Okay.
That way you would, protect yourself and your child.
Okay, so you have alluded to the contribution of this environment to this condition. And WHO also says that, the child's environment matters a lot.
Absolutely.
So, if a child has to live in this kind of environment, this world, where children like that are looked at a certain kind of way, treated a certain kind of way, how is a child to fully recover and be reintegrated into normal society?
Advocacy, awareness, education, everybody coming out to speak, because, autism has become so prevalent. You hardly count, past 5 families who, I
am shocked.
Absolutely. And, even if you look at a normal size, an average size private school, you can't count past 15 children without counting a child who is dealing with either autism or other neurodevelopmental issues. So the more we're talking about it and the more people are becoming more more open and accepting of these issues, the better for the society, because it's a disease. It's not the child's fault. And everybody must come. We must go back to the days where we had, there was this slang that we always say that, it takes a village.
Yes.
We must go back to those days where everybody is really putting in and chiming in their 2 cents for the betterment of everybody.
And mothers shouldn't hide their children. They really shouldn't.
Absolutely.
We've come to the end of the show because there's no more time. But thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really an eye-opener.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us at home and wherever else you are this day. Enjoy the rest of your day. I am Mary Alale Yusuf.